All right. Welcome, everyone. Fantastic. Hello, joining in. If you can have video on, that would be fantastic. Love being able to see you. It is so good to have everyone here. Welcome to the workshop. You will notice that you're all on mute, so you will be on mute today because I'll be running the workshop. Paul from the team will be jumping in as well. Look, just as you're joining us, we've got more people joining in as well. Can you just pop in the chat where you are in the world and what you do creatively? Right? Where you are in the world and what you do creatively. Right? This is day one of the Creative Business Summit. So I'm super excited. We're going to get underway very soon, but just pop in the chat if you've just joined us, where you are in the world and what you do. Now, those of you that don't recognize the accent, I'm from New Zealand, although these days I'm based in Richmond, Virginia. I'm sure you're all going, that is not an accent from Richmond, Virginia, but I am from New Zealand originally. So that's where the accent comes from, which is great. Love reading in the chat here where everyone's coming from. I love it. And yeah, pop what you do creatively as well. We'd love to hear who's here today live. Fantastic. Lots of other people joining in as well. I love this. And just also have a read through of who else is here, like see what other people are up to and also where people are at as well. I love that. Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Amazing. All right. So we are going to get underway. Honestly, I'm super excited about the Creative Business Summit. This is a 3-day summit that we're running, 3 days of workshops. It's something that we don't do very often. Usually we try and do it once a year if we can. This is a free workshop, and it's really a way to really share our expertise and help people out in a really unique way, because we're going to talk about offerings, we're going to talk about mindset, and obviously pricing as well. So over the next 3 days, we've got some fantastic stuff planned. Today, we're going to be really focused on offerings, right? So when I say offerings, we're going to be talking about product services. This is if you're already in creative business or you are trying to get started, right? You might be trying to figure out, what could I offer with my creative skills? Fantastic. That's going to be great for you. Or if you're already in business and you're thinking about maybe expanding, changing what you're doing, fantastic. You're at the right place for that as well. So we're going to go deep into the offerings that work. Tomorrow's going to be day 2. We're going to be diving into mindset. Tomorrow's workshop is exactly the same time as today's as well. Also, we'll run for an hour. We're talking all about abundance mindset, confidence building, shifting beliefs, really changing your mindset to be more of a business owner mindset, a successful creative business owner mindset. And then on Friday, we've got day 3, which is going to be all about pricing. Honestly, pricing is such a powerful one because so many people struggle with getting the pricing right. There's so much complexity to that. So we're really going to be diving into lots of those details as well. So just as we'll keep it nice and interactive today, so make sure you're using the chat, but pop in the chat now. Which day are you the most excited about? Day 1, offerings, day 2, mindset, or day 3, pricing? Just pop in the chat. We'll see what people are excited about. Which one do you think is going to be the best? You are allowed to say all as well. I love that, Vicky. Nice. So cool. All of them. 3. Yep. Which one do you think? Offerings 1, 2, mindset, or 3, pricing? I love it. So good. Yep. A big mix. And this is how it is, right? And I think a really important thing here to understand is that I want you to come to all 3 days if you can, even if you think, I think my mindset's pretty good, or like I've kind of got the pricing stuff right, because we want to heighten wherever you are within those things. You will pick up some great things no matter where you're at within each of these topics. So today we are going to be diving right into offerings. Look, just before we get into it, I'm going to share a bit more about myself because I know there is some people that know about myself and who I am. There'll probably be a bunch of people here who are like, okay, who's this guy with this funny accent? So I will do a bit of an intro, and then Paul will do a bit of an intro from my team here as well. He's co-hosting with me today. So my background is that I had my own creative business for 11 years. It was in the live event space. My interest has always been in bridging the gap between business and creativity. So yes, I had my own creative business for many years, but I also went and got my own master's in entrepreneurship. And then I moved on and started doing a lot of teaching in the creative space for many years, initially with universities, a lot of mentoring, coaching, teaching, lecturing right up to a master's level as well. And I did that for quite a number of years. And that was all next to running my own creative business. And eventually that evolved over the years. And I decided eventually to go full time into helping people like yourselves to grow their own visual creative business. So the people that we work with are all very much in the visual creative space. They're illustrators, graphic designers, they're muralists, they're very much in the visual space. Most of our clients we work with are in the US, Canada as well, and occasionally outside of the US and Canada as well. We are a US-based business. I am based in the US myself on the East Coast, if you didn't catch that earlier on. So ultimately the people we work with are kind of broken into three groups. Group one are like, hey, I'm just getting started. I'm trying to figure out how to move this forward. I've got these ideas, I've got these creative skills. Maybe they've got a day job, right? And they really want to grow this idea, grow this business, right? So that's group one that we work with. Group two are more like, hey, like I've been doing this for a while now. They might have part-time work still, but they really want to make it more sustainable. Group three are like, hey, I've been doing this for like 10, 20, sometimes even 30 years, and I need that support to take things to the next level. So that's just a bit more about the people that we work with. Paul, we'll get you to do a bit of an intro as well, because I'm sure everyone would love to hear from you too, and then we'll kick into it. Over to you.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thanks, Logan. And yeah, I'm Paul Corgan. I'm based up here in Maine. So I saw some people in Mass, so we're not too far away. And Nova Scotia is not that far either. But yeah, I own some small businesses up here and run like a seasonal Christmas tree business. I really come at it from that angle. And I'm also the creative business specialist with the team here at Flammable, as well as running socials. And so I'm really excited. At the end, Logan will talk more about this, but I'm excited to hop on some calls, hopefully, with some of you and chat through more specifically your creative business and see what we can, dive into deeper than even just today. So yeah, hope to get on calls with you all.
Amazing. Fantastic. I really appreciate that, Paul. Thank you. So what we're going to do from here is we're really going to be diving into the details. As Paul mentioned, towards the end, what we are going to be doing is giving away some free coaching calls, right? There's a free clarity coaching calls that Paul will be running as well. We will be setting that up at the end. We'll literally be putting Paul's Calendly link in there as well. So there's an opportunity to get a call booked in. So do make sure you stick around for that. Today is going to be all about action. So I'm just going to get myself fully highlighted there, and then we'll bring Paul back at the end. This is really, really important. One of my biggest passions is to help get you beyond the theory, right? Beyond just the ideas, the learnings, right? And actually take action, right? This is a big part of our coaching programs, is to get beyond those ideas. And it's going to be really important today as well, because ultimately action takers are the people that are successful. Right? It's good to know stuff. It's good to learn. Absolutely. But it's the action that's going to move you forward. So keep that in mind as you go through today. Make sure you have like a notepad that you can write down on, or a document open. There's going to be tons of information here today as we go through this. So I think it's time to finally get underway. Can you type grow in the chat if you're excited and ready to get started? Just type grow in the chat. Here we go. Grow, exclamation marks. I love it. Fantastic. All right. Okay. So today is all about offerings. When I say offerings, I'm really talking about the products, the services, what you can offer in your business. And this is a really important part of it, right? If you get the stuff wrong and you're trying to offer the wrong things, then you may not have a business, or you may not have a successful business that can be full-time, get you out of a day job if you have one, really make this into a lifetime of business, of creative business, not just a hobby, right? So this is a really important thing we're going to be diving into. Now, as I said earlier, like the people that we teach are really in multiple different areas. So this is going to be relevant today as well when it comes to offerings. So if you are someone that is trying to figure out what to offer, like you don't currently have a business, don't currently have offerings, great, you're at the right place. If you're someone that's like, hey, I don't know, I already do this and this, but I think I want to expand or diversify my offerings, fantastic. Or if you're someone that's like, you know what, I'm kind of over what I've been doing, I need to pivot, fantastic. That's going to be powerful for you as well. So we're going to help you get more clarity around which offerings you can focus on now or in the future, no matter what stage you're in. So first thing we're going to talk about around this is the difference between a hobby and a business. Right? Ultimately, there's nothing wrong with having creative outlets, being visual creative as a hobby, right? It's a fantastic hobby. And we often do see people who evolve from something being a hobby, maybe they're drawing, maybe they're painting, and actually it can turn into a business. But we've got to understand that there is a big, clear difference. And the biggest piece of it is that a business must be valuable to other people that are willing to pay for that value, right? Like, once again, there's nothing wrong with a hobby, but if we're going, hey, I want to earn money from this, I want this to be a business, we've got to really start to think quite differently from the hobby mindset of our creative out there. We've also got to balance that with what do people need and what do people want. Right. Sometimes what people do is they kind of take their passion, their purpose, and go, I just want to create art, which is an awesome thing. But we also need to make sure we figure out how to create value for other people if you want to earn from it, if you want it to be a business. So we're going to do a couple of activities here, a couple of brainstorms, and give you a couple of minutes to do them. So make sure you've got your notepad out. The first activity I want you to do is just do a brainstorm. Write down, what are you passionate about? Right? Write down everything. What are you passionate about? I'm not just talking about visual creative, I'm talking about in general. Right? Are you passionate about the outdoors? Right? Are you passionate about having pets? Are you passionate about wildflowers? Whatever it is, just start writing down a list of things that you are excited about in life. What are things that you're passionate about? Right? Just write them down on your own notepad there. What are you passionate about? No right or wrong answers. Just see what pops up. Sometimes it can be surprising. You might be writing down lots of things very easily. You might be struggling to come up with some ideas, and that's okay. This is something that you can take away, an activity you can take away after this workshop as well. What are you passionate about? And remember to include the non-creative stuff as well. Absolutely fine. Often what we see is that passions can actually lead towards the things that you can offer that are valuable, right? Not everything there is going to connect up, and that's okay, but it can be quite surprising. So just see if you can get a few more things written down. What are you passionate about? What are you excited about in life? And another way to think about it could even be like, what did you used to be excited about? Right? Because they just, maybe life and time have kind of got in the way. So 10 years ago, what did you used to be excited about? What were some of the hobbies, the passions that you had 10 years ago? What are the things that you wish you had more time for? It might be gardening, right? It might be having a vegetable garden, right? But you might be like, right now, I don't have time for that. That's okay. You can still write it down. Nice. I'll just give everyone a little bit longer there. See if you can get down 2 or 3 more things. Okay, this, as I said, this is something you can come back to later. The next brainstorm we're going to get you to do, so new page, blank page. I want you to brainstorm what you could do that people would value, right? What is something that you could do that people would value, even if you're not excited about it? It might be, some sort of skill that you have, and you might be like, I don't really want to get paid to do that thing, but people do value it, right? That's okay. You can write that down as well, because sometimes that might lead towards other ideas. Write them all down, including, once again, those non-creative things as well. What could you do that people would value? What could you offer that has value for other people? Keep it really open here. You might say, well, cooking. I don't really like cooking, but people love my cooking, apparently. Yeah, write it down. Great. Fantastic. There might be some crossover from the passions as well. So you can have a look at that list there and just see if there's anything there that inspires you for things that you could do that have value, that other people would value. Nice. Okay, just giving everyone a little bit longer there. And once again, this is something you can continue afterwards as well. This is just really opening our minds up, getting some ideas brewing for the rest of the workshop as well. Amazing. Okay, we're going to keep moving through this. So something really interesting, myself, Paul, and the team, we get to work with a lot of people, so we get to see what works and what doesn't work. Right? What I mean is when it comes to products and services that our clients offer, we get to see the trends. We've seen many, many years of trends of the types of things that work. Plus, even beyond the people that we work with, we talk to a lot of people. We see what's happening in the various different industries as well. So one of the big things I'm going to take you through around offerings is what we call the valuable offer. This is something that is very, very interesting. A valuable offer, I want you to define that as something that you sell for at least $300. I don't really mind which currency you use here. That's fine. In my reference here is US dollars, but you can use Canadian dollars, you can use euros. There's some different relevant ones there, but basically around $300 plus. Very important point there. Paul and I talk about this a lot. $300 minimum. What we're saying is at least $300. Right. So this is really interesting. What we've really found is that to be successful, to grow a sustainable business, you need to have at least some of your offerings need to be at $300 or more. Once again, $1,000, even better. $5,000, fantastic. Right. It's something really, really interesting. Now, I'm not saying it's what I think should happen or how it should work. I think it'd be really cool if you could build a business of $50 products in this visual creative space. What we've seen though is that it's really, really hard to do. And I'm going to talk a bit more detail about that. We've just really seen that ultimately, if you do want to leave your day job, you want to have a sustainable business, and you want it to be sustainable long term, then you need to have at least some of your offerings need to be $300 plus. And I think part of it is that it is a numbers game, right? Ultimately, every time you sell something, every client, every customer takes energy. Right. So if you want to make $5,000 in a month, that means if you're selling something for $10, you need to sell 500 of them every single month. And again, next month and the month after. Right. That's a lot. 500 people spending $10. Right. It's a huge amount. And when we start to think about that maths, sometimes it doesn't really start to work, let alone the fact that really 5,000, really, we want to get to 10,000. Right? If we want to be doing this full time, we want it to be sustainable. It's kind of the same, even if you're selling something for $100, right? You've still got to sell to now $50 every single month, right? We've even noticed that our clients with large followings online even struggle with those lower ticket, those lower priced offerings. I'm sure there's people here that are like, if I had 100,000 followers on Instagram right now, I could sell things for $10, $50 all day, every day. We've really seen that even our clients with big followings, and probably about 10% of our clients have over 10,000 followers on Instagram, they struggle to make those things work as well. Right? They might be selling some amounts, but not proportional to their followings. So we've really seen that ultimately, if you want to start making your 5 or 10K per month, it's much better to sell something for $500 or 2,500. Right? The maths really is quite different, right? If you want to earn your $5,000 in a month, well, you only need to sell to 2 people at $2,500 or one $5,000 offering, right? Let alone the fact we want to start actually making more like 10,000. Right. So that's a big part of it, is actually the numbers game of this. It's also incredibly competitive. I'm sure you all have people you follow online that have been successful in these spaces, but the reality is that it's become more and more competitive over the years. So even the people that it kind of used to work for pretty well, it's working less and less and less. And they're the ones that have also been doing it for such a long time as well. So it's something we need to be very clear on. Now, I'm not saying you can't do those things. We do have clients that charge under $300 for various bits and pieces that they offer, but they're not generally the things that are growing their business to be long-term sustainable. Right? It might be part of their offerings, and they might be spending some of their energy on these things. And I'll give some examples soon, but more of the energy needs to go on the $300 plus stuff. Right? So it's quite an interesting thing to be aware of. Paul and I have many conversations with people who are like, I've been trying for sometimes years, and all of the stuff that they're offering is under $300, and they're just like, it's not working. Maybe there's something wrong with my art. I haven't figured it out. I haven't broken through. And we just like, the problem is the offerings. Right? Because we just see it again and again and again. even if you're amazing at marketing or you figure it out, well, yeah, sometimes we've seen people have, some quick wins, right? It can happen, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't tend to be sustainable long term, and it doesn't get them to that 10K, that consistent revenue long term as well. Cool. So, we will talk a bit more about some of the different examples of both the under $300 plus over $300 as well. But what I want to do first is get you to a bit of a brainstorm around what you could offer on top of what you're currently doing if you're already in business. What could you offer with your current creative skills for $300 plus? What could you currently do? So once again, it can be a blank page or a new list. What could you do? And don't get too tied up in the things that you want to do. Just write down what you could do, because often that can lead towards some other ideas. Or you can actually start questioning the thing that you've written down and say, oh, I'd hate to do that. Well, actually, maybe you would enjoy it, but there's just some blocks around that. So just taking a moment, see if you can write down some ideas of what you could be doing, ideally with current creative skills. Look, if it's something that you think you could probably upskill to in like a month or two, you can write that down as well. It's not really worth writing down something that's you have to now go study something for like a year or two. But just writing down what could you do with your creative skills that could be at least 300. Once again, reminder, at least it's a minimum, right? 500, even better, 1,000, fantastic. 5,000, incredible, great. What could you do with your current creative skills for over $300? Cool. And see if you can get a couple more ideas down. I know it's not always going to come straight out, so this might be something you'll need to work on throughout the rest of this workshop. Some more ideas may come up. I'm going to go through some examples soon as well. What we're going to talk about next is this idea of focus versus diversification, right? So we work with creative people, right? So as you can imagine, many creative people have a lot of ideas, and they often have a lot of things they could do, and they often have a lot of things that they want to do as well. And that's really fantastic. It can also be a hindrance, right? So a lot of ideas, a lot of things you want to do, fantastic, exciting, but it can be a hindrance as well. We also hear from like the internet, this idea of diversification. Right? You hear it, people say this, oh, you've got to diversify what you're offering. Okay, it sounds like a smart and compelling idea. But the thing is that often what we see is people take that too far. Their diversification is like, I'm trying to do 10 different things. And they end up being very overwhelmed, very distracted. Most people we work with, the vast majority of people we work with, are like a one-person business. They're a solopreneur. So it's really hard to offer all these different things, even though you're excited about it. So what we recommend at Flame Entrepreneur is that you offer 3 to 5 things, 3 to 5 different offerings, products and services, right? 3 to 5 products and services. It could be 3, it could be 5, it could be 4. I'm not saying it could be 1, and I'm not saying it could be 10, right? It's really about somewhere in between. We do hear this idea, once again, kind of online on the internet about like, focus and do one thing. I'm not a believer for that when it comes to creative people, because they get bored. They lose interest. So you just try and do one offering. What often can happen is they can lose interest. And yes, there is truth in that idea of diversification. It's a higher risk if you're just focusing on one thing, because industries can shift and change, opportunities can change. Things like health scares, or you get injured, right? Some things you may need to pivot. And if you're just doing one thing, if you're a muralist and you're just reliant on that and you injure yourself, well, that could actually be a problem, right? So once again, it's about actually finding the balance between these two ideas of one thing that would be kind of boring and maybe a little risky versus like trying to do everything. And look, it does really depend on where you're at. Right? If you have a day job, if you're really early stage in your business, if you have a lot of family commitments, if you have health struggles, it might not make sense to offer 5 things. Maybe it's more like the 2 or the 3, but definitely not 1 and definitely not 10. right? So this is kind of an interesting one because there is a lot of different ways to break it down. We often work with our clients on, okay, well, what is defined as an offering? There's lots of different ways to define offerings. Now, the interesting thing here, going back to what I said around the $300 plus, some of them should be $300 plus. Some of the 3 to 5 types of offerings should be $300 plus. It doesn't have to be all of them. It could be, right? It could be that they're all, things that you would charge at least $300 for, right? It's good. But you may have something, 1 or 2 things in the mix there that is under that. That's totally fine, right? We have clients that do all sorts of things, including things that are under $300, obviously more of a focus on the $300 plus. So this is, something really interesting that we've seen because we've worked with so many people and because we talk to so many people for so many years. These are the trends and these are the things that actually work. What we're going to do now, just before we move on, is we're just going to take a moment and get everyone to share their Instagram, because part of it is also about building community. So what we will do is go grab your URL, not just your @tag, but I want to get everyone connected. I'm going to drop our one in here as well. This is our Flambo Entrepreneur Instagram. I think some of you we're connected with already. Make sure you click and follow us and we'll get connected up there. But can everyone who's here on live just go and grab your Instagram link, URL, just like Jill's done there, pop it in the chat, and then you'll be able to actually go through and click everyone else's and get connected, right? Because building a business is also about community. And one of the things I really love about the visual creative space is there's so much community connection and support. People are really supportive of each other, which is fantastic. And look, workshops like this are a way to get connected with some really interesting people. So I can see people popping in the chat there now. That's fantastic. Once you've popped your Instagram URL in the chat, go through and just click everyone else's and follow them, connect with them, see what they're up to. Right? So go through there, get connected. I love that, popping it in the chat. If you're not sure how to do it, you just need to open up your own browser, go to your own Instagram and grab that link up the top. Never pop that @tag in on a workshop like this because they're not clickable. It's always a little bit annoying. So make sure they're a clickable link. Amazing. Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, cool. Right. So next thing we're going to talk about is some more specific of these observations of what people offer. Right? I'm actually going to go into some detail around the types of things that are both over $300 and also under $300. Right? Because I really want to give you some examples based on what we see, and this may inspire what you could do or what you could stop doing or stop maybe focusing so much energy on if it's something that we don't think is going to work as well for you. Right, so the first thing I'm going to dive into is the things that are generally under $300. Right, these are things that you're charging lower amounts for, from a few dollars, maybe up to $100, sometimes even $100 or $200. The first one I'm going to talk about is print on demand. Right, print on demand, those of you that know about it, great. Those of you that don't know about it, you can Google it, you can find a bit more. It is basically putting your designs on products that people can basically buy online. Now, it's not really working anymore. I think the print on demand space is quite interesting. It used to work quite well. It's really shifted a lot, especially over the last 5 years. And it keeps shifting. It's getting harder and harder to the point where these days we basically tell our clients that we don't think it's worth their time. If someone's really passionate about it, or they're already doing it, they've already got a store up, they've already got something like Society6 or Redbubble, cool, they can leave it, but it's not something we're recommending they really put any time into. Maximum 10% of your time. All right, once again, I'm not saying this is because I hate print on demand or something. I'm just saying this is just what we see based on working with many people and talking with a lot more people as well. And, I think there's, once again, multiple reasons for this. One of the big ones is that it's so competitive. More and more people are on there every single day. Right? It's a pretty low barrier to entry, which is really cool. But the challenge is that just means there's so many designs up there. And what happens is that it becomes that numbers game once again, because most of the time, if you've got a design on a mug or prints or on a bag, well, the problem is you're only making a few dollars each time a sale is made. So the numbers game comes in again. You have to make so much, right? You have to sell so much every single month. And, sometimes people do see, some marketing value of having yourself up on these various sites to, find other opportunities. Personally, I think there's much better ways to market. right? Also, a lot of these sites have shifted. Some of them have got different fees now, different costs, right? And it's just getting really harder and harder and harder. Even the people that have been doing it for a long time are really seeing that it's a real struggle to make it work. So that's the first one. Really want to make everyone very aware of that. I talk to a lot of people, Paul talks to a lot of people who, once again, just say, I've tried this, I've tried that, but I just need to figure it out. And we're just like, look, it's not that you're missing some magical secret here, and you just need to spend more time. And the problem is the offering is not something that is really working anymore. So that's the first one. Second one's kind of an interesting one, is licensing. Licensing is kind of a funny one in that it is technically kind of like under $300, but it could be defined as over $300 because you could have a licensing payout, which could be higher than $300. But usually the individual sale of an item, you're just getting a margin, a percentage of that, right? That's generally pretty much always going to be well under 300. So licensing's, it still works. We think very differently about licensing compared to print on demand. We have quite a few clients that do licensing. The thing we need to be aware of this is that it does take significant amount of time to get working. And it's generally not the thing that's going to really, help you leave the day job or have that big impact on revenue, right? Have that, long-term sustainable revenue. It is also getting more and more competitive. And I'm not sure if it's going to go in the same way as print on demand, but, I think it may. Now, if you're going to put time and energy into licensing, just be aware it can take 1 to 2 years to really get it moving, get it rolling. And it's probably only really worth up to like 30% of your time and energy if that's something that you do want to get into. Right? We see some people who are like, cool, I'm doing print on demand and licensing and it's not working, right? And yeah, that's not the equation that we would recommend. But if that's something you're passionate about or something you do want to move into, yeah, it could be an interesting thing. Just being aware that, it is becoming more competitive, and also it takes significant amounts of time to really get that working and coming in. Sometimes people do combine licensing with like design buyouts or design fees as part of it. And that can actually help, increase some of the numbers. So, there's a few ways around that as well. Another one I'll talk about here, quite a common one in the creative space, people we work with, illustrators, graphic designers, muralists, is art prints. I think art prints are really cool. $30, $50, $80 art prints, these sorts of numbers. Yes, technically some of them can be done by print on demand, but you could have your own store. We're just seeing, once again, it's more and more competitive. It's really hard if you have a small following. And even if you have a big following, well, it's hard because you have to sell so much. Right. And ultimately you also have to, be on Etsy, or you have to have your own web shop, and it's going to take work ongoing. So I think, people kind of use these words passive income to describe things like art prints. It's not very passive. It ends up being a lot more work than you think. So, being aware of that. Once again, we do have some clients that do have some art prints, but it's not generally the things that are actually making a reasonable portion of their revenue. It's something that they may be passionate about, they want to be able to offer, or they have been offering in the past. But it's not something that's going to be long-term sustainable based on what we've seen. You kind of move from there into what I would more generally call products, right? So this could be physical, could be digital products, could be designs on things, things like Etsy or Creative Market, even things like selling fonts. These are generally going to be things that are under $300 as well. Look, if there's anything that's physical, the challenge is that it comes with the cost to reduce, and there's a lot of logistics in terms of transport and packaging costs and things like that. You also have challenges around the platforms, algorithms like Etsy, which keep changing, and you have zero control over that. And once again, it's a very competitive space. We've seen the odd exception where, we've worked with some people who it generally has worked for quite a while and it's gone okay. But what we've seen is that it's really slowing down and doesn't actually seem to be very sustainable for the long term. All right. So that's something to be very aware of there as well. I'm going to briefly mention a couple of other things here, and then we're going to get on to some more positive news, because this is kind of like me telling you why these things don't work or why they're sometimes harder to work. But I'm going to mention a couple more. Well, one of them is pet portraits, house portraits, family portraits. We have clients, once again, that do these, right? And I'm not saying don't do it. These are really interesting. They can be fantastic as well, but they're not generally going to be above that $300, right? These are things that, yeah, you could maybe charge $300. Look, we have seen the odd person being able to charge more than that, $500, $800, but it's generally quite rare. One of the challenges generally with these types of offerings is that they're quite time consuming, right? So it's quite hard to get the numbers working in terms of the time you need to actually spend on this product of creating this portrait or painting this pet portrait, right? It's a lot of time and energy, and then you've got materials and you need to send it, right? It can be quite hard. You also end up working with often people that are just quite picky, right? They're like, hey, I want it in a very specific way. So yes, we do sometimes see it can be part of what you do. It could be that 20 or 30%. We also see people who get more into the fine art area. But once again, you've got some other challenges around that, around time, energy you put into something. And yes, you're generally working more with private individuals. So there's some challenges around the selling side there. I'm going to briefly mention education. That is something that can very much fit into the space. Not everyone has interest in doing something in education, but we do have a portion of our clients want to do something in the education space. They want to do some sort of mentoring or coaching in the creative space. Maybe they want to have an online course or a Skillshare, right? And yeah, this can be a great idea. But once again, it's generally going to be 20, 30, 40% of the energy. So it's going to be a smaller portion. It's not the thing that's usually going to really accelerate them to long-term sustainable income, but it could be part of that equation. Also, you generally need to build an audience if you're going to actually get some reasonable income from this. It's also getting more and more competitive, but I think there is some really interesting ideas here and some different opportunities. As I said, we have quite a few clients that do education in different ways, but it's a smaller portion of their focus. Wholesale is another area, kind of an interesting area as well. We have some clients that do wholesale, and yes, orders can be over $300, but per unit, it's generally going to be under $300. So for sure, it can be part of what you offer, but comes with its own challenges. You've got to be managing things like inventory. You're reliant on partners to be doing the selling, and often it's quite low price points as well. So, basically what I'm really sharing here is that anything under $300 generally is quite competitive because it's a low barrier to entry. It's hard to make work because of the numbers. You just need to sell so many units every single month. And the reality is that these things are generally actually more time consuming than people think. We literally have a training that I sometimes run called Why Logan Hates the Word Passive Income, the words passive income. Right. Once again, I'm not saying I hate passive income. I think it's a great idea. What I'm saying is that I think it sends people in the wrong direction, thinking that it's not going to be much work when actually it can be. Now, one thing that does come up occasionally, people sometimes say could I add all these things together? Could I do 30% education, 30% licensing, 10% print on demand, and then maybe do a bit of wholesale? That's generally not what we'd recommend. Right, we need to see some things in the mix there that are going to be over the $300 mark. Right, this is just based on what we've seen. So we're going to dive into more of the $300 side from here. Now, I'm sure some of you are going, okay, we've heard all the bad news. What are the options from here? So I'm going to run you through them. I'm going to go through these quite quickly, but generally these things here, they're more personalized, they're more customized. Generally, it's going to involve more of a relationship build where you're communicating with someone rather than a click and buy online. Right? It's not generally just kind of a listed thing on a website that you can just buy straight away. So these are generally the things that are over $300. It's not always that you're selling to businesses. It can be private clients as well, but often it is more that you're working with businesses, with clients. And keep in mind that we've seen a ton of different things. I'm just going to be covering some kind of the core trends that we really see. Right. So number one, murals. Great area of opportunity. Murals are fantastic. If you have any interest in murals or you're already a muralist, fantastic. Keep doing it. It's a growing industry. If you're considering getting into it, definitely consider it because it is a growing area of opportunity. There's so many different ways to do murals, from signwriting to window designs to full murals inside buildings, outdoors. Some people even just do the digital parts, the creative parts, and then they'll do things like wraps on canvas, or they'll pay someone else to paint, right? And you can also charge really good amounts. Like we've even had clients who are charging $20,000, $50,000, even over $100,000 for mural projects, right? So there is big opportunities in this space as a creative person. Look, it's not for everyone. I'm sure there's people here that have no interest in that, and that's totally fine as well. But it is something that I would really get you to consider, right? And think about and go, could I do that? Those of you that are already muralists, fantastic. Keep focused on that space. Yes, you might want to have something else going on outside of murals as well. But the good thing about murals is that there's a lot of different opportunities even within that space. Second thing I'll talk about is branding. Working with big businesses, small businesses, there's a lot of opportunities here. You can generally charge really good amounts. And this is both more on kind of the graphic design side or even illustration side, right? We've seen people who are more illustrators who have really done some great work around branding, and you can charge 2,000, 4,000, 5,000, sometimes even higher. Editorial and publishing. So this is like book illustrators, book covers, magazines, both online, offline, right? There's a big area, big world within publishing, within editorial as well. Packaging design. So this is basically illustration designs for products like food, could be coffee brands, like beer brands, kombucha, could be cosmetics, right? There's a lot of interesting opportunities within the packaging design space. And once again, there's a lot of value in this too. Then we kind of get into what we would call spot illustrations, spot designs. Right? And there's a lot of different things you can be doing here, like designs for people's websites or for social media, or even in advertising. Right? There's a lot of different areas that can move into. Event illustration is another really interesting area. Right? So this is, people often think about like weddings, right? That's a pretty clear one, right? So designing for weddings, designing signs, designing invitations, but also that can move into like other corporate events or different types of parties and things like that. Graphic design, we work with quite a few graphic designers, so obviously there's lots of different opportunities within the graphic design space. Web design as well. We've seen people both do, more of the visual aspects, the logos, the designs on the website, through to being full website designers. We've worked with people in that space as well. Right, so that could be interesting. We also have people who are like doing website design. They're like, I need to get out of it. So it's really going, okay, let's see what other areas they could get into if they've lost interest in that. So you notice here that these things are more service-based, more custom, more generally client-facing. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. I've just taken you through a few different examples there. So obviously, I've thrown a lot of information at you all, and part of this is to help you to perhaps expand and come up with some good ideas about what you could do or what you could start doing. For some of you, it might be to help you really rethink the things that maybe you're putting energy into that maybe you need to pivot away from, or maybe change that focus to actually get working within that there as well. So a really important thing here is really making sure you're taking those next actions from what you've heard and what you've learned today. Now, the easiest way to do that is to test things out, right? Try things. Ultimately, the only way you're going to see if you being a muralist or you getting into packaging design is to actually try. And by trying to do that, by trying to offer it, you're going to learn. And you may learn that you do not like it. And that's okay. You can pivot. We sometimes see people getting stuck in the paralysis of like, what's the thing, the perfect thing? You can brainstorm lists, you can talk to lots of people, but at some point, you've generally just got to go, you know what, I'm going to give this thing a go. And through focusing on that thing, you're going to learn along the way. And that's going to really help you. Right? So if you are someone that feels really stuck in that and that kind of cycle of, I've got to figure out the perfect thing. Okay, well, pick something and go for it. Ideally, pick something that's $300 plus, right? Because that's the thing that's probably more likely to really work for you financially. Cool. So really important pieces here. We are going to be doing some Q&A soon as well. So I'll just bring Paul back here. He's going to join us for this as well. So we're going to dive into Q&A. If you do have a question, can you just pop it into the chat? Just before we dive into Q&A, we are going to take you through what we call the free clarity calls that we're going to be offering with Paul. So look, this is something that we love to do. We don't get to do it very often, but we are offering some free clarity calls with Paul from the team here today. He will really help you to process what you've learned today and hear where you're at and share some tips and ideas as well. Right. So this is going to be an open offer. We're going to be putting in his link in there and we're going to get you just to book a time in. right? This is completely free. Now, a few things here. We do have limited spots, so there are some caveats if you're gonna book that call in. Right? We're very busy. Paul's very busy. He's amazing. He's very knowledgeable, but we've got some caveats. I'm going to briefly share them. If you're all good with them, great. I'll drop the link in there. The first caveat is that we need you to be someone that's ready to take action now, right? You're ready to move forward with your business. You want to leave your day job. You want to get started, or you want to grow from where you're at, or you could be feeling stuck, or you just sense your own potential and you're ready to take that next step. Look, if you're just kind of like gathering ideas and gathering information, not really kind of ready to implement, please don't book that call because we have limited spots. Right, so that's the first one. The second one is that we want you to be open to share ideas, share where you're at, right? Get a bit vulnerable, share your dreams and your challenges, and also be open to hearing Paul's ideas and his observations from all his vast experience. Basically, what we're saying is we need you to be coachable. Really, a growth mindset, an open mindset, willingness to learn is absolutely essential for these. And then the third one is kind of just a reasonable, fair, obvious one, which is that you commit to it, right? You turn up on time. You don't leave Paul just hanging, waiting, sitting, wondering if you're going to arrive. You're not kind of, on a walk somewhere trying to talk to Paul and he's getting kind of motion sickness. Hey, we just want you to be at a table, arrive early, ready, take notes, allow some time, right? Really, really important. Paul's time is incredibly valuable. So we just want to make sure we're really using that. And yeah, it's going to be an incredibly powerful call. So all I ask is if you agree with that, just pop in the chat, yes, or agree, or fair enough, reasonable, yes, something like that. So we just get some agreement from everyone while I make sure we go and get Paul's link. So we can drop that into the chat. Agree. We got some yeses, fair enough. That's more than fair. Agree. I love it. Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. That's fantastic. Okay, cool. So I'm going to drop Paul's link in here. My recommendation is to have a time with Paul as soon as possible. We do have a few times tomorrow. Otherwise, next week. Try and get a time for next week there as well. And we can get motion sickness if there's someone that's kind of like out for a jog while they're trying to talk with us on video. So there we go. So just if everyone pops that link open, grab a time now. We're going to dive into Q&A soon, but I've just popped that into the chat, and just make sure you find a time. If you can do it as soon as possible, great. Next week, fantastic. If it's going to be the week after, that's fine as well. But I recommend you do it as soon as possible. We will also be sending you through an email. Myself or Celeste from my team will be in contact with an email just to get you to fill out a short form, just so that Paul can actually prepare for that call as well. Cool. Okay, so we are going to dive into some Q&A. We were sending some questions beforehand that we're going to jump into, but if you do have a question you want to ask, please just pop it in the chat and we'll try and answer it, really around offerings. This first one that we got sent in here, I'm actually going to direct to you, Paul, because I know you've got some really interesting ideas around this. So the question we got sent in around offerings was, what is the best offering you recommend? What is the best offering you recommend? Or maybe your favorite, Paul?
It's a good one. Yeah. I like a lot of the offers, but I think the key is thinking about it as like the intersection of what you have the skills to do, what you like to do, and what there's a market for at that $300 plus, like Logan said. And so figuring out what's exciting in that area for you, what's in that overlap. I really love murals. We work with a ton of muralists and they're amazing. And I don't do murals, but I think it seems really fun, even though it's a ton of work I know. And I love them because it's a really good market right now. There's tons of opportunity in it. There's a high price point on it. So you can do, maybe even 1 or 2 murals a month is realistic as a big part of your offering and income. And you get to be out there physically and do it. And it looks awesome. And you can do awesome time lapses, which are really fun. So yeah, I think that's probably my favorite, but it's really got to be individual to you, whatever is exciting to you in that arena of what we talked about.
Yeah, I love that. That's absolutely fantastic. And, I think once again, I mentioned that growing opportunities, as Paul mentioned, right? This is a great area. Look, there's a lot of other things that you can do as well. Cool. So we're going to dive into another question we're sent in, which is it's kind of related actually. So what if you want to offer something new, but you don't have the skill set for it currently? I've kind of referred to this a little bit throughout the session as well, but this can come up where you're like, hey, like, there's murals, or I want to get into packaging design, but I don't really have the existing skill set. Like, what should I do? Like, is that something I should still go for? I kind of think it in terms of like timeline of how long it's really going to take. Right. So yeah, look, if you can get into something and pivot into something in the next couple of months, that could be worth upskilling for. right? Often people do actually have kind of unrealistic expectations of what is required. Oh, murals, that's terrifying. I've never done that before. I wouldn't know what to do. I need to go and train for 2 years. You could actually be getting paid for a mural within a pretty short amount of time, within the next month or two, if you have some background as an illustrator, designer, right? You can bring that forward. Are you going to be a world-class muralist straight away? Probably not, right? But can you actually be out there getting paid for this? Yes, you can actually do that in a relatively short amount of time. So that's something to really think about there, is that often people have these barriers of what they think is actually possible and whether they would be good enough, right? And we see this. We see people sometimes say, oh, I want to get into the space here, but first of all, I need to spend like the next year upgrading my portfolio, creating a lot more designs before I would put myself out there, right? Whereas actually, there's opportunities that they're missing out on in the meantime, and the best way to grow and learn is going to be to put themselves out there. We also do see people who basically transition what they're offering. This is quite a typical one when we work with graphic designers. So it might be someone who's like a graphic design day job, and they're like, hey, like, I want to leave the day job. I would love to get into illustration or murals, these other areas here, but like it's a very new area. Or they're already a graphic designer in their own business and they want to pivot, right? These are kind of some cases that we do see. The key there is that word transition, right? It's not that we recommend going like cold turkey, okay, just shut down that part of the business, stop doing this thing here and like go all in on this new thing. We generally talk about more of a transition, because if you're already making money doing something, say graphic design, and you want to get in something new like murals, like illustration, just be mindful. It will take some time, and you've got to build up some expertise, clientele, those things there. So yeah, you might start off being like, okay, I'm spending 80% of my time on graphic design, 20% on this new thing. And then you're going to shift it 30%, the new thing, 40%. You're going to shift it that way. So you're going to transition it rather than just going cold turkey, because you may have no income coming in. Also, if you are in a day job as a graphic designer, you're probably like, I don't want to like have a business doing graphic design. It's extremely boring because I do that in a day job already. Well, if you want to leave the day job, it may be the quickest to at least start doing some freelance graphic design on the side, as well as getting to these new other more interesting creative areas as well, right? So these are really important things to think about. There's lots of obviously nuance to some of these things here as well, but just be aware that rather than like perfecting a craft, a skill, and then being able to offer and get paid for it, you're actually better to get actually working in the business, getting paid, and learn as you go. Obviously, this depends on your overall creative skill set where you start with. Most people we speak with have fantastic creative skills already. It's just really figuring out, okay, how can they apply them in different ways here as well, right? So this is really, really powerful here. I'm just going to go through some of the other questions. If you do have another question, anyone, just pop it into the chat and we'll see what we can cover here. So Heath here, so you said education may not be a high earning aspect. Do you think it's worth it to offer some education aspects at a lower price as a way to bring in higher paying jobs from the client? High paying jobs from the client. I'm not actually 100% sure exactly what you mean here. Do you want to just elaborate on that a little bit more? I think you might be saying, is it worth it to aspect a lower price way to bring in higher paying jobs from that client? I think you might be kind of talking about this idea where basically you can have like some lower tiered offerings that can maybe build some trust that you can kind of then build up to these higher offerings. Yeah, it's a strategy. It can definitely work as well. Once again, it just comes down to the amount of time you spend on this, right? Because education, kind of a bit like licensing, it just takes time to build up. And whilst you're building these things or even selling these lower price things, well, in the meantime, you want to be making some money. So you're probably going to spend 70% of your time elsewhere. But yeah, education can be, a great area of opportunity within that as well. Cool. Awesome. More or less, I got it. That's good. So I love that. Just to answer Tristan's there, yes, we will send you an email of this live recording. Paul's answered that as well. Look, we're going to go through briefly the plans for tomorrow, and then we're going to start to do wrap up. So tomorrow we're going to be diving right into mindset. Right, this is so powerful. This is like one of my favorite things that we really focus on is the mindset side, abundance mindset, confidence building, belief. We do often see there's a lot of barriers for people to take themselves to that next level, whether that's like leave a day job, start a business, or grow your business from 3 to 4K per month or 1 to 2K per month to 5K, 8K, 10K, 15K, 20K, right? Often these mindset barriers that get in the way. And we've seen people who have been through this point to this point, they're now earning X amount, and the new mindset barriers come up again, right? Mindset is something that is going to be an ongoing thing. The work never ends when it comes to mindset. So make sure that you come along, be here live if you can. We will send the recording out, but we're going to make sure it's really interactive live tomorrow as well. It's at exactly the same time on the exact same Zoom link as well. And then on Friday, we do have the pricing one. So please, they're all free. Come along if you can. I am also going to share in the link in the chat, the link to the sign up. If you can think of someone that you can invite to tomorrow or Friday, send them this link and say, hey, I had a great time in day one. Anyone that signs up to that, they will get the information, the links for day 2 and day 3 as well. So yeah, send that around. See if there's someone that you know that you can share that with. We'd love to have some more people joining us for tomorrow as well. Once again, it's a great topic when it comes to mindset mastery, so important. And then obviously we're going to be diving into pricing on Friday as well. So we've got lots to cover there. Hey, what we're going to do now is just get everyone popping into the chat a takeaway from today. What have you learned? What's something that you found interesting? What has been helpful? I am also going to pop into the chat Paul's link there as well. Make sure you've got that opened up and find a time, book that in, make sure that's all sorted there. And pop in the chat. What did you learn? What was interesting or helpful? What did you learn? What was a takeaway? What was surprising? You could even write, was there something that was like, tough to hear, but useful maybe? Just pop something in the chat. What's something that you heard? This is really going to help condense things for other people that are here with us as well. Cool. Awesome. So just having a look through the chat here. $300 value perimeter makes a lot of sense. Absolutely, Casey. I think, that the $300 value one, it is a really interesting one. And once again, there's literally years of knowledge that has gone into literally that number. Like we've really gone deep into that. And that's what we've really seen. Once again, minimum $300 plus. Nice. Any creative endeavor can be profitable. It's all about positioning. Fantastic. I love that. Having a high price point. Trisha, I love that. Fantastic. Corrine, take action on what you learn and pursue offerings that excite you the most, they're valuable to the market. I love that, right? It's getting both sides. What are you excited about, passionate about, have skills in, but where's the value? Who's interested in working with you? How can you create value with those things and finding where those things can connect? And also, can the numbers work, right? So even if there's something that there's a need, there's interest, and you've got the skills, well, yes, but are the numbers going to work? Can you sell enough to have a sustainable business? Really, really important. Today's session really solidified to stay on point with murals and keep price points up. Absolutely. Keep increasing those prices. Interesting looking at the worthwhile offerings. I love that, Jill. A passive income might not be worth my time. We won't go into a Logan rant and rave around that today, but it can be quite challenging because passive income can take a lot of time and it's not really passive income. That's kind of the point here as well. But once again, just not throwing you off there completely. We do have clients that do these sorts of things I mentioned that are sometimes called passive income. We just recommend it's a smaller portion of their energy and they do make sure they're spending the majority of the energy on the $300 plus stuff if that's the goals that they have to grow their sustainable business, to leave their day job or to get to 10K plus, these are the sorts of goals that people have. So that's why it's important. Inspiring and motivating. I love that. Keep working on portfolio website, 300 minimum values priceless. Lots of other good things being added here in the chat. Everyone's loving the $300 value. I love that. Importance of having an audience. Absolutely. The lists of ideas, limiting the offerings 3 to 5 services, products. Love that. Absolutely. That was a good one too. Great first day. Tons of ideas, helps to narrow it down. And honestly, even the workshops over the next couple of days as well will help you to narrow things down further. You'll actually really be able to take what you've got. Plus, Paul will be able to talk to you about these things as well. So make sure you've got that call booked in. Lovely having everyone here. Honestly, super excited about being able to offer this. Thank you so much. We're going to wrap things up here. I will stay around just in the chat for a couple of minutes afterwards as well. But have a lovely rest of your day. Looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Awesome. Take care, everyone. See you tomorrow. Hey, I wanted to just drop back in here if you're watching the recording. Thank you so much for watching day one of the Creative Business Summit. Honestly, the offerings topic is so powerful. Look, the opportunity to have a call with Paul is for you as well, right? So we'll include the link in the email that you would have been sent, right? Make sure you go through, get that booked in. We'd love everyone here who is happy, who's been here live or watched the recording, who would love to get on a call with Paul. It's a completely free call. Go and get that booked in, ideally as soon as possible, something in the next week or two for that. We'll leave that open for a couple of days, but do make sure you get that all booked in. That's for you as well. If you managed to watch the recording, we know life can be busy as well. And hopefully you can join us perhaps on day 2 or day 3. Reminder that day 2 is all about mindset. Day 3 is all about pricing, right? So day 2 will be at 1 p.m. East Coast time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Day 3, same time as well. So hopefully you can make it. We'll make sure you get all the information via email as well. Rock on.